Newcastle showdown, when politics takes to the streets. Right then, before we dive into today's absolute spectacle, smash that subscribe button because trust me, you're going to want front row seats to every political earthquake we cover here on UK Connors. Today's story? It's got everything. Protests, counter-protests, cancelled conferences, and enough political drama to make Westminster look like a Sunday tea party. Picture this. Newcastle city centre, hundreds of people flooding the streets, and not for a football match or a shopping spree. No, this is something far more explosive. We've got anti-immigration protesters squaring off against counter-demonstrators in what can only be described as a political powder keg with a very short fuse. And at the heart of it all, a tale that involves everyone from UKIP to Tommy Robinson, from Elon Musk to local councillors, all wrapped up in a controversy that's been brewing for weeks. Let's start with the main event, shall we? UKIP, yes, that UKIP, decided Newcastle was a perfect stage for their latest theatrical production. They've organized what they're calling a demonstration for mass deportations. Subtle as a brick through a window, isn't it? The party faithful were meant to march through the city before gathering for speeches, presumably to tell anyone within earshot exactly how they'd solve Britain's immigration challenges. Because nothing says instructive political discourse like a street rally calling for mass deportations, does it? But here's where it gets interesting, and by interesting, I mean absolutely chaotic. The moment word got out about UKIP's little gathering, Newcastle progressive community said not on our watch. Counter-protesters began organizing their own demonstration, and suddenly we had the makings of a proper political face-off. The authorities, bless them, started warning about significant numbers and scrambled to put safety measures in place. Because apparently, when you mix passionate political beliefs with British weather and city centre crowds, things can get rather spicy. Now, you might be wondering what sparked all this drama in the first place. Well, sit down for this one because it's a proper political thriller. The Crown Plaza Hotel, which, plot twist, is actually owned by Newcastle City Council, was meant to host a conference that would have launched a brand new political party called Advance UK, and who's backing this shiny new political venture. None other than Tommy Robinson and, wait for it, Elon Musk himself. Yes, the same Elon Musk who's been buying social media platforms and sending rockets to space has apparently decided British politics needs a special touch. The optics alone are absolutely delicious, aren't they? Here you have a council-owned hotel about to host the launch of a political party backed by one of Britain's most controversial figures and the world's richest man. It's like someone took a political scandal generator and set it to maximum chaos. But just when you thought this story couldn't get any more twisted, the hotel pulled the plug. Health and safety grounds, they said. Hotel management's decision, they claimed. Funny how health and safety concerns suddenly materialize when the political heat gets turned up, isn't it? So there we were, a cancelled conference, angry UKIP supporters still determined to have their say, and counter-protesters equally determined to have theirs. Newcastle city centre became the unlikely battleground for Britain's ongoing immigration debate, complete with all the passion, fury, and political theatre you'd expect from such a combustible mix. And speaking of political theatre, let's talk about the cast of characters involved. Jamie Driscoll, the former North of Tyne mayor, didn't just watch from the sidelines. Oh no, he rolled up his sleeves and joined the counter-protest, even sharing images of demonstrators massing in the Dean Street area. There's something rather satisfying about seeing former political figures getting their hands dirty in grassroots activism, isn't there? It reminds us that politics isn't just about committee rooms and press conferences. Sometimes it's about showing up when it matters. But let's step back for a moment and consider what this whole spectacle really represents. We're witnessing the physical manifestation of Britain's deepest political divisions playing out on Newcastle streets. On one side, you have those who believe immigration has fundamentally changed Britain for the worse, who see mass deportation as not just desirable but necessary. On the other side, you have those who view such rhetoric as dangerous, divisive, and fundamentally UN British. Both sides are absolutely convinced they are fighting for the soul of a nation. The cancelled Advance UK conference adds another layer to this political drama. Here was meant to be the grand unveiling of what its backers presumably hoped would be a game-changing political movement. With Tommy Robinson's street-level following and Elon Musk's global influence and deep pockets, Advance UK was clearly being positioned as something more than just another fringe political party. But Newcastle City Council, through their hotel management, effectively said, "Not here, not today." Whether you see that as responsible governance or political censorship probably depends entirely on which side of this debate you fall. What's particularly fascinating is how this whole affair highlights a complex relationship between local government, private business, and political expression. The Crown Plaza isn't just any hotel. It's owned by the very council that governs Newcastle. So when they canceled the conference, it wasn't just a business decision. It was, intentionally or not, a political statement. They've essentially said that some forms of political expression are too risky, too dangerous, or too divisive for their city. Whether you agree with that assessment or not, it's a significant precedent. The timing couldn't be more perfect either. Britain is in the middle of one of its most intense debates about immigration in decades. From small boat crossings in the Channel to hotel accommodation for asylum seekers, from integration challenges in local communities to labour market impacts, immigration touches every aspect of British political life. These Newcastle demonstrations aren't happening in a vacuum. They are part of a much larger national conversation about who we are as a country and what we want to become. And let's be honest about something else. This is exactly the kind of political drama that social media was designed to amplify. Every march, every chant, every confrontation gets broadcast instantly to thousands of people who weren't there but feel like they were. The images Jamie Driscoll shared, the live updates from journalists on the ground, the heated debates in comment sections, it all feeds into a political ecosystem that thrives on conflict and controversy. In many ways, these street demonstrations are as much about the online audience as they are about the people actually present. The UKIP organizers knew exactly what they were doing when they planned this demonstration. They wanted attention, they wanted headlines, and they wanted to force their political opponents to respond. Mission accomplished on all counts. By calling for mass deportations and choosing Newcastle as their stage, they guaranteed maximum political impact. Whether you think that cynical political manipulation or necessary democratic activism probably depends on your political perspective, but there's no denying its effectiveness as a strategy. The counter-protesters, for their part, fell right into the trap, or perhaps they had no choice but to respond. When someone rolls into your city calling for mass deportations, silence isn't really an option, is it? So they mobilized, they organized, and they showed up in numbers. The result was exactly the kind of political theater that dominates news cycles and social media feeds for days afterward. But here's what's really troubling about this whole affair. We're increasingly seeing British politics play out on the streets rather than in Parliament or local councils or even in the media. When political parties start organizing demonstrations calling for mass deportations, when conferences get cancelled due to health and safety concerns, when former mayors are joining protests in city centres, we're witnessing the breakdown of traditional political discourse. Whether that breakdown is healthy or dangerous is one of the defining questions of our time. The Newcastle demonstration also reveals something important about the geography of British politics. This isn't London, where political protests are practically a weekly occurrence. This is Newcastle, a proud northern city with its own distinct political culture and history. When political movements choose places like Newcastle for their demonstrations, they're making a statement about taking their message beyond the metropolitan bubble and into what they see as real Britain. Whether Newcastle residents appreciate being used as a political stage for national movements is another question entirely. And what about the police in all this? They found themselves in the impossible position of facilitating democratic expression while preventing potential violence, keeping apart groups with fundamentally opposed worldviews, ensuring everyone can exercise their right to protest while maintaining public order. It's exactly the kind of challenge that modern policing struggles with. Too heavy-handed, and they are accused of suppressing legitimate political expression. Too light-touch, and they are blamed when things inevitably kick off. The role of money in all this can't be ignored either. When you have someone like Elon Musk backing a new British political party, it raises fundamental questions about foreign influence in domestic politics. Yes, Musk might have business interests in Britain, but is still fundamentally an outsider attempting to shape British political discourse. The fact that his money was apparently behind the cancelled conference adds an international dimension to what might otherwise be seen as a purely domestic political dispute. Looking at the broader picture, these Newcastle demonstrations represent something much more significant than just another political protest. They are a symptom of a political system under enormous strain, where traditional institutions and processes seem unable to handle the intensity of contemporary political divisions. When people take to the streets in such numbers, with such passion, it's usually because they feel the normal channels of political expression have failed them. This is a new reality of British politics, passionate, polarized, and increasingly played out in public squares rather than parliament chambers. Whether we're witnessing healthy democratic engagement or dangerous political fragmentation remains to be seen. What's certain is that events like these Newcastle demonstrations will become increasingly common as Britain grapples with its deepest political divisions in generations. The cancelled conference, the street protest, the political theater, it's all part of a larger story about a country trying to work out what it believes and where it's going. And frankly, if you're not paying attention to moments like these, you're missing the real story of contemporary British politics. That's politics in 2024 Britain for you. Complex, controversial, and absolutely unmissable. If you want to stay ahead of every twist, tone, and political earthquake, make sure you're subscribed to UK Connors because